Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to String and Story. My name is HollyAnne Knight, and it's my job to guide you to quilt and to live with confidence. Thank you for joining me in my armchair. We're continuing to be flexible as we deal with the broken ankle. So our live video locations may be a little bit unpredictable over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go ahead and pull y'all up on my phone and make sure that I can see you and make sure that you can see me. As you are hopping on, do say hi in the comments so that I can see you. I am thrilled to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about batting. This is something that we have not talked about in detail around String and Story in over a year. And thus, it was high time that we did so. I mean, we use batting all the time. Why wouldn't we have a conversation about it, right? All right, let me get this pinned to the top and let me share it over to the Quilting Rockstars because I have been negligent about that. And I know that it's confusing. Let's see. Share to group. All righty. Huzzah. All right, I will keep this up so that I can hopefully see y'all's comments. I can see them on my computer right now, but I won't be able to as I toggle over to start this slideshow. So again, my name is HollyAnne Knight. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm excited to talk about batting with you today. And without further ado, let's get on with it, all right? As you're hopping on, do say hi in those comments. I would be absolutely, guys, I got it right on the first try. That is like a miracle. I would be delighted to greet you as you join us. Good morning, Sue. I see you are with us. All right, let me pop over here. So a brief introduction to quilt batting. Now, many of you are familiar with what quilt batting is, right? It's literally the layer that goes between the pieced top of your quilt and the back of your quilt, which may or may not be pieced, right? It's also called wadding. It's traditionally called wadding because literally wads of material or fiber were used to fill the inside of the quilt. And in the UK and England, and Sue, you can clarify this for me. Do Canadians also say wadding or do y'all say batting? Out of curiosity. So wadding and batting mean the same thing. Historically, this could be made anywhere from animal hair to wool, to rags, paper, sawdust, all kinds of materials historically have been used to make the batting of a quilt. The batting of the quilt exists to create warmth. Okay, so today, obviously, we don't use things like sawdust and paper as a general rule. So let's talk about the fibers that we do use in our battings and the pros and cons of each one so that you can make some decisions about what to use for your projects. And y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I will unabashedly, as usual, tell you what my favorites are. That's what I'm here for, right? I don't know if that's what I'm here for. Okay, so Sue says in Canada they say batting. So I know in the UK and Australia, wadding is still often said. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Karen. Hey, Pat. Hey, Anita. So glad to see you guys. All right, so in this mini workshop, we're going to discuss the basics of quilt batting, what it is and why it matters, as we just did, and the various fibers frequently used to make it. By the end of our time together, you'll be able to make more informed decisions about what type of batting is best for each of your, this says products. I think that was supposed to be projects. To be perfectly honest, my brain is still a little fuzzy with pain and general irritation regarding the ankle. So we're just gonna, maybe you're selling your quilts. They could be products. Now, full disclosure, I'm going to talk a lot about Hobbs quilt batting today because that's my favorite brand. Okay, there's also Warm and Natural. There's, y'all are going to have to help me, Quilter's Dream. Is that right? Anyway, there's a number of kind of leading brands on the market. I am unabashedly a Hobbs girl. So if you ask me questions about particular battings I like, I'm going to be referencing Hobbs products primarily. Okay, they did not sponsor this mini workshop. But I just feel like I should be honest with you guys about the fact that, like, I do know Stephanie, who does a lot of their marketing. I love their products, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, okay? Now, that being said, if you are in Free Motion Quilting Academy right now, this is my big thing for you, okay? I'm glancing over to make sure I'm not missing any questions or anything. I see all of you guys hopping on it. I'm so glad you're here. My big thing for you, if you are in Free Motion Quilting Academy, is you are going to be using a lot of batting. Okay? Batting, fabric, and thread. You're gonna be going through it as you're practicing, right? We've already discussed using the ugly fabric for our practice sandwiches. All right. This could be an opportunity to use up straight spools of thread, but honestly, thread is something where I never skimp. Always use Aurifil. I just don't fool with that, because thread, if your machine and your thread don't get along, then your tension won't be right, and that really matters with free motion quilting. So I don't recommend trimming there. But on your batting, take your 50% off coupon and go down to Ye Old Big Box Store and get yourself some budget-friendly, I'm choosing that wording carefully, some budget-friendly cotton batting, which will probably not be Hobbs. Hobbs is not like extravagant by any stretch. I find their prices to be very reasonable, but there are more budget-friendly brands on the market. Okay, and if you are making practice sandwiches for Free Motion Quilting Academy, go get yourself, with your coupon, some budget-friendly cotton batting. Okay, there's my word for you. Hillary, I hope you heard that Aurifil shout out that I just did for the record. Always Aurifil. We never cut corners there. I'm so glad you guys are here. Now, have you ever said, what's the difference between cotton batting and poly batting anyway? And obviously the difference is one is cotton, one is poly, but like, what does that mean, right? Have you ever said that? Or have you said, does it really matter what kind of batting that I've used? Or maybe you've said, how do I choose the right batting for this project? If you have said any of these things, you, my dear, are in the right place. And let's take a few minutes to demystify this batting. Hillary, I'm so glad. Babe, I cannot wait to see you in like 2 days. I'm so excited. QuiltCon is coming. All right, starting at the top, cotton batting. This is my go-to. All right, cotton, obviously from cotton plants. All right, and here I'm talking about 100% cotton batting. Pros and cons. There's a lot of pros, all right? It's breathable, it's dense but not bulky, it's the most affordable natural fiber, it's easily accessible, you can get it in a lot of colors, okay? You can get it in white, because that's bleach, you can get it unbleached, which is cream, you can even get it black, okay? It's dyed, obviously. Often if it's coming in black, it's actually going to be an 80-20, which we will talk about shortly. But I go ahead and mention it here, because while this picture does not show a dark batting for a dark project, this is a practice sandwich. If you are making a quilt, as I often do, with lots of navy, do consider the black batting. Now, this right here is part of why I do love Hobbs. As a brand, I love their cotton bats. My go-to bat, if you've watched my videos in my sewing room and you've seen the big roll of batting that showed up behind me recently, finally, like, buckled in and got myself a roll. Good morning, Felicia. Hello. I'm in my room, so the cats are going to join. But you may not put your butt in the camera. We have manners around here, okay? Thank you. The big roll of batting, that is Hobbs Cotton Supreme. And one of the things that I like about it is that it helps with one of these cons, okay? One of the cons of cotton batting is they tend to be lower loft. They're not as fluffy, right? You are high loft, Felicia. We all know that. They tend to create more lint, right? It's a natural fiber. It's going to lint. And it does hold creases when it's folded. I will say that last con of holding creases when folded is my single biggest complaint about cotton batting. Because I store my quilts on a quilt ladder. And that is kind of a bummer. That if I want to pull one down and take a photo or something, I have to like really fluff it or go press it or throw it in the dryer for a second. Okay, now the kind of nice thing. Oh, Allison, I'm so glad you're here live. The nice thing, though, is that cotton is easy to throw in the dryer for a second to fluff it, and, you know, then it's kind of solved. But my favorite batting is the Hobbs Cotton Supreme, and it is about twice as thick as your normal cotton bat. So instead of a 1/4 inch, it's close to a 1/2 inch. It's a lovely bat, okay? So there's the basics of cotton batting. Oh, this is fascinating. So Anita just shared a fascinating fact that she met someone in Louisiana who grows different colors of cotton, including green cotton and brown cotton. Anita, I didn't know that was a thing, and that is fascinating. Dear Hobbs, can we please have multicolored batting? Really just for the fun of it, right? Like, that would just be a for the fun of it thing. I love that idea. I'm so glad you guys are here live. Okay, Lydia, right? That Hobbs Cotton Supreme. I want to like sleep on it. Like it can be like my mattress. It is so delightful. So here's the biggest reason that I love cotton batting as my #1 go-to and the #1 thing I will recommend to you. If you ask me what batting should I use, I'm gonna tell you, get a good high quality 100% cotton bat. All right. Now, the reason is because your fabric is cotton, and if you're using the thread that I recommend, which is Aurifil 50 weight, any Aurifil thread, 50 weight is just like my favorite. Then you're using all the same fiber for your quilting. All right. And chances are you do not quilt as densely as I do. Actually, most of my students do not quilt as densely as I do. I just love dense quilting. But even if you do quilt very densely, when you've got cotton on cotton on cotton, everything gets very soft and squishy in the wash. And you don't get that cardboardy, plasticky feel that you get if you start introducing polyesters or other synthetics into your quilting. All right. Cotton is affordable. It's accessible. It's my go-to. All right. I do know that sometimes people worry about shrinkage. Y'all, I've never had like noteworthy shrinkage. And I haven't done like measuring tests of like, oh, I lost an entire inch on this queen. I haven't done that. But there's never been anything that I'm like, well, that really shrunk up, right? It's like any quilt. When you wash it, it gets crinkly. Okay. So once in a while, I hear people have a lot of fear around the shrinkage of cotton, and I just have not found that to be a problem in my life, ever. Okay, that is a great question, Kathy. So I love Hobbs as a brand. If I am buying prepackaged batting, go-tos include Amazon and Fat Quarter Shop. Hello, sweetheart. Please move your bum. Thank you. And you'll find links if you go to stringandstory.com/Amazon picks. Then you actually can find some links to some prepackaged Hobbs battings. It's a little hit or miss what is available that way. All right. As far as a roll, it is, let me see if I can think of the name. I want to make sure I get this right. I think it's Linda's. I'm going to look it up, guys. Bear with me for just a second. Linda's Electric Quilters. So it is Long Arms. Oh, let's see if there's longarmsupplies.net. And again, this is not sponsored by these lovely ladies. This is just where I get my rolls of batting. So if you're looking for a roll of Hobbs in particular, Linda's Electric Quilters. Literally, if you Google it, it'll come up. Okay, that's where I got my roll. I was delighted with how affordable it was. Now, because I'm in the industry and I do some long arming for customers, I did get a little bit of a discount, but even the like retail for regular consumers was still very accessible. I was very pleased. So great question. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, does Connecting Threads have Hobbs as well? That is wonderful. Thank you, Lydia. Yeah, perfect. So it sounds like there's good options. All right, number 2, wool batting. Also love wool batting. Now you're going to find, as we're talking about batting this morning, I have an unabashed love for natural fibers. That's true in all areas of my life. I love natural fibers. Maybe this is part of why I'm a quilter, right? So my second favorite is wool batting. And by the way, guys, these pictures that you guys are seeing next to the pros and cons, I'm actually using that fiber for those quilts. And so obviously here on screen, you may not see a huge difference, but I pointed out here because wool fiber has much more loft than cotton. So it's fluffier, and you can really see it with the quilted swirls in this quilt. Okay. So the pros of wool batting, it is a natural fiber. It's breathable, but like cotton, but it has more loft. It's fluffier, right? And it does not crease when it's folded. Okay. That's because wool is naturally very springy. This is why it works to do things like sweaters and socks with wool, and they don't just end up like noodles by the end. Whereas like if you knit a cotton sock, you're going to struggle to have it keep its shape, right? Because it does not have the spring of wool. Now, the cons is that it is more expensive. It's a little bit less accessible, and it can be trickier to wash. Okay, so it's often blended with something like cotton to prevent shrinkage. Though Hobbs does have a 100% washable wool bat. It's what I used here. It did beautifully. Their cotton wool blend is also delightful. Okay, so if you're looking for kind of a budget-friendly way to try a wool bat, then the Hobbs Cotton Wool Blend is my personal go-to. And it's what I will use if I'm quilting something that I want a little more loft, but I still want it quite washable. Okay. Yes, it's so soft. So Sue is trying out that washable wool bat, and it is yummy. It is yummy, yummy, yummy. And I will say, I have done all the things with washing my quilts. I was scared to wash this house quilt for a while, which is hilarious because it's literally sitting in a pile on my bed right now because it's one of the quilts I've been using to like sort of give myself covers at night because I can't really stick my leg like in the bed at night right now because this boot is like the size of Rhode Island. It is so big. It is so big. But I honestly have washed that quilt several times since, no problems. I washed it on cold, like tumble dry medium, like no issues. So highly recommend trying wool batting if you've not. I love the washable options that are now available on the market. And it's just soft and scrumptious. Now keep in mind, some people do have a wool allergy. So if you're gifting a quilt, like maybe check on that. Okay. Number 3, polyester batting. This is what you're thinking of when you think of a very fluffy quilt, right? This is also very common, quilts made in the 80s, all those things, okay? So polyester batting has high loft. It is the most affordable, highly accessible, highly washable, low lint, because, guys, it's plastic. Like, there's no lint if it's not a natural fiber. But it may not maintain the loft over time. It's super important that you follow the manufacturer's directions with quilting it. You need to make sure you quilt it densely enough that it doesn't migrate. Cotton and wool sticks to itself a little bit more. And so you've got less of an issue with the wool and the cotton kind of migrating to the quilting and bunching up, literally wadding over time, right? But poly, that can be a little bit of an issue. My biggest complaint with poly, I have 3 big issues with poly, okay? 1, it doesn't breathe. Right? I find it very hot and sweaty to be under. My dad is actually allergic. Like, he literally will break out. Now, Hobbs does have a hypoallergenic poly. My dad just stays away from poly, so I can't actually speak to the effectiveness of it, but I know that they have one. I just don't like that it gets sweaty to me. I don't like, it doesn't drape as much. It gets so puffy that it doesn't like hang all the time. It can kind of, I don't know. It can be a bit stiff, and it can definitely get cardboardy if you quilt it densely. So you're probably picking up that like poly is not my fave. Okay. I'm always going to encourage you to go wool or cotton or bamboo or silk, some sort of natural fiber, because I'm very pro natural fibers. They're renewable resources. If they're, harvested properly, they can be much gentler on the environment. And I just don't like plastic. I just don't like plastic, is what it is. Let's see. So wool batting is warmer than cotton. And so it's interesting that you asked that, Sherry. That's a great question. Jumping back just a second. I have 2 quilts that I've been using as kind of extras. And I can tell a big difference between the wool one and the cotton one with how like cozy it is. I still find it very breathable though. I have not had any issues with being like sweaty and yucky, right? Wool is still very breathable, but it is cozier and warmer. But even down, like I live in the South, and so most of what I use is cotton because that also works well with being in Georgia, and it's warmer here. But I haven't had any issues with my wool either. Granted, the quilt on my bed is not wool. Maybe I would find it too warm on my bed. I don't know, but I love it. I find it to be really cozy. Yes, it's that breathable factor. Absolutely. Oh, Kimberly, absolutely. It's so good. So yes, Lori, this is my library rug quilt, which is why it's made with poly. I wanted something super durable, super washable. If y'all are not familiar with this quilt, this is let me see if I think it's called, is it Sunburst? I'm going to blank on the pattern name now. It's by Satterwhite Quilts, designed it. And I was pattern testing for her, and I made this quilt entirely out of upholstery fabric. So it's like all canvases. So it's thick. And then I put a big ol' poly batting in it, and then just did like a rolled edge binding. And this is about 8 feet square, and it is the rug in our library. So we literally have a quilt as a rug in our library. The thing that I would do differently if I were to do it again is I would put more batting in it. I would like double or triple bat it, just because the seams are bulky with the upholstery fabric, but it looks fabulous. I'm really proud of this. Yeah, I stand by the idea of turning like a quilt into a rug. I've enjoyed it immensely. I have no regrets. Now, granted, I will say I got the upholstery fabric at like a deep discount store here, and that definitely helped with like the price of it too. But anyway, polyester batting. Next up, cotton poly blend. Now, this is probably the most common thing that I hear quilters using. This is often called an 80-20. So it's 80% cotton, 20% polyester. The 20% polyester adds a little bit more loft. It reduces the shrinkage just a little bit, and it makes it just a little bit cheaper. Okay, so it maintains most of the breathability of cotton, but with less shrinkage, lint, creasing. It's accessible, affordable, and can have increased loft over 100% cotton batt. It doesn't necessarily. Like, for example, this mug rug has no loft. Actually, humorously, this was not planned. I just noticed it. This mug rug. I just looked over and was like, oh yeah, that's the one that's literally sitting next to me right now. So this mug rug in particular is actually made with an 80-20 that Hobbs has that's fusible. So you can steam it to baste it. I love doing that for small projects, just as an aside. If you've not tried the Hobbs fusible batt, I don't like it for big quilts. I just find it to be too much of a pain to wrangle and to get everything under the iron and have it get secure. But I love their fusible batt for little things like mug rugs. It works great for bags, for practice sandwiches, and it is an 80-20 as well. Now, again, the cons: polyester can irritate sensitive skin, traps more heat. So you've got some kind of push-pull there. But if you're looking for something that is a lot more like cotton, but has some of that, doesn't crease as much, maybe has a little bit more loft, doesn't shrink as much, then this can be a good middle ground. And this, when I started quilting, at least, this was like the go-to batting. So I don't know if this is one that y'all also find to be kind of the go-to in your repertoire of battings, but that's at least my impression of this batt, even though it's one I don't actually use that often. Then, of course, a cotton wool blend, which I've already mentioned. So again, this is going to be partially cotton, partially wool. It's usually kind of mostly cotton with some wool mixed in. I don't remember the percentages on Hobbs, but it does the same thing as the 80-20, that it's more affordable and washable than 100% wool, and it doesn't hold creases. It's nice and breathable. It's going to be more expensive than a poly or a poly blend, but then you get the 100% natural fiber. So this is actually what I used for the quilt in my parents' bed for that big Polaris quilt I did a year and a half ago, a little over a year ago, and they love it. I loved it. It was a dream to work with. This is right up there in my like favorite batts. All right. Finally, specialty fibers. I'm going to be real honest. I have little to say on this topic. Silk, bamboo, alpaca, etc. I have felt them. I have not used them. They are more expensive. They're definitely luxury items. I'm curious to see if bamboo batting kind of grows in popularity over time. I think a lot of bamboo-based products are really on the rise right now, and I'm curious about that. But if you're here and if you've used any of these, I would love to know your thoughts. Okay, we're going to head into like kind of a quick Q&A. But if you've used any of these battings, this one obviously is I mentioned that I used the batting that I'm talking about in the picture. It's not true of this slide. That's a cotton batt in the picture. But I have some silk batting. I just have not had the right project for yet. So before I go on to Q&A, feel free to go ahead and drop questions in if you have them. But let's talk a little bit about what each of these batts can be really good for, right? I definitely think of using wool or maybe one of these luxury fibers when I'm thinking of a quilt that I want to have some sort of heirloom quality to it. So the quilt that I made for my parents, right? They do not have kids or pets in the house. That's a quilt they're going to be using for a really long time. It's a quilt that I will likely inherit someday, right? It's kind of an heirloom quilt for our family. So I made sure that I used wool, and it's a really high quality fiber. And I just like that little extra bit of luxury for an item like that, right? For everyday quilts, I love cotton. That Cotton Supreme that I mentioned is my go-to. I will use an 80-20 fusible for small projects around the house, things like table runners, placemats, mug rugs, maybe wall hangings. I'm honestly likely to put a wall hanging just on the long arm and use a regular cotton batt. But those are, around the house, I often use cotton. Poly, I'm most likely to use for things like a rug, something that's a project more than like a quilt or something I'm gonna like be snuggling under. I don't like to snuggle under poly, but poly can be useful for things like bags or rugs. It has its place, and you may find that you like poly better than I do, right? Now, I will say my one caution around poly, and I don't have any data around this, but I am very particularly hesitant about using synthetic fibers around children. That's just a personal preference. I don't have some scary statistic to share with you, but like kids and babies don't understand not to put their face in things. And the reality is that something like polyester is less breathable. So I am very particular if I'm sewing for kids, my kids or other kids, that I'm using a cotton or a wool. I love that natural fiber. I love the breathability of it. I like to believe it's just a little bit safer, right? Again, I have no scary statistics to share with you, and I'm not here to scare you anyway, but that would be my advice around that. So that's kind of how I use those batts. But let's go ahead and go into some questions. If you're feeling excited, if you're intrigued by this topic of batting, I would love for you to tap that heart for me. Be dropping comments and questions down below, and I'm going to go through and see what I see in these comments. Oh, good comments and questions. I love it. Oh, Kimberly, that's right. Kimberly won a selection from Hobbs recently. They sent me that. I'm assuming it's the same selection. When I first was getting to know Hobbs, Kimberly, they sent me a big box of batting too. It's so fun to get to try those out. Okay, so bamboo is linty. That's good. It's a natural fiber, so that makes sense. And y'all, at least my thought with linty things when quilting, cotton fabric's fairly linty, cotton thread can be linty. Same thing with these battings that are made from natural fibers. I just make a really good habit of cleaning out my bobbin race, and I've never really had it be a problem. So just keep that in mind, that as you're using natural fibers, just clean out your bobbin race more frequently, and it shouldn't cause any problems, all right? So Simone says bamboo batting is amazing. That is surprisingly hard to say, bamboo batting. Simone, what do you love about it? I would love to know kind of like what really grabbed you. I'm assuming it has good drape. I know bamboo yarn has really great drape, so I'm assuming that's probably true of bamboo batting as well. So yes, Melissa Joe, I used Warm and Natural for a long time. It is a very thin batting. It is very thin. I highly recommend moving to a different brand like Hobbs, like the Hobbs Cotton Supreme. Like if you love cotton batting, but you're wanting something thicker, that would be my recommendation. Something else you could do is you could double batt. So double batting is where you actually put 2 layers of batting inside your quilt. The only disadvantage of doing something like that with the Warm and Natural is that Warm and Natural is a pretty dense batting. So it will be thicker, but it may not necessarily feel fluffier, if that makes sense. If I'm wanting like maximum like warmth and fluff without going kind of polyester, I will layer a cotton supreme and either a wool on top or a cotton wool on top and double batt. And that's sometimes really fun to do on the long arm, and things will get very puffy. Yeah. Oh, Simone, here we go. So the bamboo is soft, the drape is amazing, and it's just dreamy, but it's more expensive. Yeah, those specialty fibers are a lot pricier. Maybe one of these days I'll have one that I want to do that with. So here's something I want to know, Simone. Is it heavy? Like, is it more or less heavy than cotton? Because something I would love to find for my bed is John is a very warm sleeper, and I'm a very cool sleeper. But my biggest thing is I like a sense of weight on me. So in the summer, we really struggle because like he's sweating, but I'm still wanting a sense of weight. Our house gets very warm in the summer. So it's less about like coziness and more about just sheer weight. So does the bamboo have a good weight to it? Because I might consider putting bamboo in a quilt for my bed, if that is true. You're thinking of using silk or washable wool for the crazy quilt. Oh, that sounds amazing, Kimberly. And HollyAnne says she has a batik quilt that was professionally quilted with a silk blend. Oh, yes, the weight and drape. Okay, so maybe I need to consider going silk for my bed, because I've heard that silk is also very breathable. Things to consider, my dears. All right. If you have more questions, feel free to hop them in the comments. What does that even mean? Feel free to drop them in the comments. And I want to tell you about a quick freebie that I have for you guys. So this is a lot to remember. All right. We covered a lot of ground, especially if you haven't necessarily given a lot of thought to the content of your batting fiber before, but you're curious about it. You're wanting to try out some different bats. First of all, if you're going to be at QuiltCon, this is like not in the slideshow. I'm going totally off script. If you're going to be at QuiltCon, make sure you stop by the Hobbs booth. They will have samples, and you'll get to pet everything. Stephanie is incredibly knowledgeable, and she is definitely your girl to get more details on some of the blends that I've mentioned that are my favorites from them. Unabashedly a Hobbs fan. Sorry, guys. So if you're going to be at QuiltCon or any show where Hobbs is, so they're around frequently, take advantage of that. But I also have a gift for you today. And I put together a printable one sheet, particularly covering the pros and cons of cotton, wool, and polyester, and a couple of kind of a glossary items and resources at the bottom. And this is a free download for you guys. So you can either go to this blog, stringandstory.com/blog/quilt batting, where you'll see all the information that we've talked about today, as well as a button to click to sign up and go ahead and get that freebie delivered straight to you. Or there's a link in the caption of this video that will actually go straight to the freebie page, where you can put in your name and email address so that I can send that over. It's a fun freebie. It's a good one just for quick reference when you're like, wait, which one's more washable? How do I get more loft? It'll have some resources on there for you. Okay? Thank you for joining me today, guys. Let me make sure that I have not missed any. Yes, they have very affordable samples at the Hobbs booth. I agree. Same issues when sleeping, want weight and warmth, but not hot, heavily pieced and heavy quilting. Yes, that's the route that I tend to go, is using like a nice thick cotton batt and heavily quilting it. Yep, absolutely. I love that I'm not the only one. Okay, so bamboo's lighter than cotton, but it breathes like cotton and keeps the heat well. Okay, Simone, I love it. I love it. You are so welcome, Melissa. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful as you are thinking through the battings that you want for your projects. And if you've never explored the world of battings, take that leap. Like, find some ways to try out battings that you haven't tried before. I've found that to be a really fun thing that I've had the opportunity to do over the last couple of years. And it's been fun to discover some favorites and some different uses for those favorite battings, especially as batting is something that we often maybe kind of dismiss. It falls into that bucket of basting that we're trying to just kind of get through. But there's a lot to be done there, and it can really add something to your quilt, especially if you are free motion quilting your quilts and you are adding a lot of texture. Something that has more loft might be the way to go. All right. Yes. Also, Kimberly has a great tip there. Hobbs has a great pamphlet, which I think you can probably ask for one on their website. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they definitely will have them at the show, that has like little tiny squares that you can feel, and it has all the washing instructions and everything. So that's one of the things I love about Hobbs, is they're very strong in their batting education. So hopefully this has been a great primer for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you'll take advantage of that freebie that I've put together. And guys, remember, there's no social hour this week because I'm going to QuiltCon, but I'm hoping to do at least one Facebook Live while I am at QuiltCon. I don't have a time and day for you. I will try to announce it in advance. I cannot promise that, so just pay attention to your notifications from the String and Story page. There will be a replay, fear not. And if you are going to QuiltCon, make sure you hop over into the Quilting Rockstars and vote on my poll. I'm trying to decide the best time to do some sort of Quilting Rockstars get-together there at the show, because I would love to see you guys in person if you're going. All right, thank you so much for joining me this morning, guys. It's always a delight to be with you. I'll see you live from QuiltCon later this week, and we'll be back here next Tuesday to do a QuiltCon recap. I'm already excited. I'm literally already so excited. So I'll see you later this week and next week as well. Bye for now.